Commander Marcus Reed couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching him. The observation deck of the stellar horizon should have been empty at this hour, yet the hairs on the back of his neck stood at attention. 20 years of deep space exploration had taught him to trust his instincts. The massive viewing window before him offered an unobstructed view of the Perseus Nebula, its swirling purple and blue gases creating an otherworldly tableau. The ship had been stationed here for 3 weeks, studying unusual energy signatures that defied explanation. Reed took another sip of his coffee, grimacing at its bitterness. That's when he saw it, a slight shimmer in the air, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. "Computer, run atmospheric analysis of observation deck," he commanded, keeping his voice steady. Before the system could respond, the shimmer coalesced into a form that made his coffee cup slip from his fingers. Standing before him was a being unlike anything humanity had encountered in its centuries of space exploration. Her form was humanoid, but her skin seemed to shift between shades of silver and violet, like the nebula itself. Ethereal patterns of light danced across her surface, and her eyes, all 4 of them, regarded him with an intelligence that made his breath catch. "Commander Marcus Reed," she spoke, her voice carrying an harmonic quality that seemed impossible for human vocal cords to produce. "I am Thalira, emissary of the Celestial Concordat. Your species' presence in this sector has not gone unnoticed." Reed's hand instinctively moved toward his communicator, but Thalira raised a hand. "Please, if I meant harm, you would not have seen me materialize." Her lower set of eyes blinked in what he interpreted as amusement. "Your security protocols, while impressive for your technological level, cannot detect our phase shift technology." "Why reveal yourself now?" Reed asked, forcing himself to remain calm. First contact scenarios had been drilled into him countless times, but none of the simulations had prepared him for this. Thalira moved closer, her movements fluid and graceful. "Your species stands at a crossroads, Commander. The energy signatures you've been studying, they're not natural phenomena. They're warning signs of something far more dangerous than your scientists could imagine." Reed's tactical mind kicked into high gear. The anomalies in the nebula's radiation pattern, they're artificial. "Indeed." Thalira waved her hand, and suddenly the space between them filled with a holographic display of the nebula. Points of light pulsed in a pattern Reed had seen in their sensor logs. "What you're detecting are quantum fractures in space-time. Someone or something is attempting to tear open a gateway between dimensions." "Why tell us? Surely your civilization has the capability to handle this threat." Thalira's expression shifted to something Reed couldn't quite read. "The Celestial Concordat has watched humanity for centuries. Despite your young age as a spacefaring species, you've shown remarkable adaptability and ingenuity. The threat we face, it requires qualities that my people have evolved beyond. We need your human unpredictability, your capacity to think beyond established patterns." A distant alarm began to sound, and Reed knew his crew had finally detected the unauthorized presence on the observation deck. Thalira seemed unconcerned. "You have 6 hours to decide, Commander Reed. If you choose to help, place your hand on this." She produced a small crystalline object that hung in the air between them. "It will signal your acceptance and provide coordinates for a secure meeting location. If you decline—" She paused, all 4 eyes focusing on him with intensity. "Then we wish you luck in surviving what comes next." Before Reed could respond, Thalira's form began to dissolve into shimmering particles. 6 hours, Commander. The fate of both our peoples may depend on your choice." As security teams burst through the door, weapons drawn, Reed found himself alone with the floating crystal, and a decision that would change the course of human history. The nebula continued its eternal dance outside the window, but now its beauty seemed to hide something far more sinister in its depths. He picked up the crystal, feeling its warm pulse against his palm, and knew that sleep would not come easily tonight. The next 6 hours would be the longest of his life. The crystalline device pulsed with an eerie glow as Dr. Naomi Santos examined it in the Stellar Horizons Quantum Lab. Her dark eyes narrowed behind protective goggles as she adjusted another scanner. Commander Reed stood nearby, watching the clock tick down on their remaining time. This technology is incredible, Naomi breathed, her fingers hovering over the holographic readouts. The quantum entanglement patterns alone are decades beyond our current understanding. Commander, we're dealing with a civilization that treats physics like we treat basic arithmetic. Reed rubbed his temples. Can you tell if it's safe to use as intended? As far as I can tell, yes, but she was cut off by a violent shudder that ran through the ship. Warning klaxons began blaring. Bridge report, Reed barked into his communicator. Lieutenant Jackson's voice crackled through. Sir, massive energy spike in the nebula, something's forming. You need to see this. Reed and Naomi rushed to the bridge, emerging to find the crew staring transfixed at the main viewport. The nebula's peaceful purples and blues had been replaced by angry swirls of crimson and black. A massive tear was forming in space itself, reality peeling back like old wallpaper to reveal something that hurt the eyes to look at. 4 hours left on our deadline, Reed muttered. Tactical analysis. Whatever's coming through that tear, sir, it's big. Initial readings suggest a structure roughly 1/3 the size of Earth's moon. The tear widened, and through it emerged something that defied description. It was a construct of impossible geometries and writhing metal, covered in lights that seemed to absorb rather than emit illumination. As it pushed its way into their reality, the nearby stars began to dim. Sir, Jackson's voice shook slightly. We're being hailed, but not by that thing, different source entirely. On screen, Thalira's image appeared, but gone was the serene confidence from their first meeting. Commander Reed, events are accelerating faster than predicted. The Harbinger has begun its emergence ahead of schedule. The what? A weapon created by a civilization that destroyed itself eons ago. It travels between realities, consuming all it encounters to fuel its endless expansion. Her lower eyes narrowed. We need your answer now, Commander. The coordinates I provided will lead you to a sanctuary where we can plan our resistance. Without the combined strengths of both our peoples, this sector of space will be lost within days. Reed looked at the monstrosity emerging from the tier, then at his crew. He saw fear in their eyes, yes, but also determination. Humanity had come too far to lose everything now. Dr. Santos, he turned to Naomi, your analysis of their technology. She nodded firmly. It's advanced but not inherently hostile. The quantum signatures are clean. Reed took a deep breath. Lieutenant Jackson, begin evacuation protocols for all non-essential personnel to the escape pods. I won't risk the entire crew. He faced Thalira's image again. The rest of us will follow your coordinates, but I want something clear. This is an alliance of equals. We'll help you stop that thing, but we do it together. All 4 of Thalira's eyes seemed to smile. Humanity continues to surprise us, Commander. Perhaps that is exactly what we need. Her image flickered. The sanctuary's defenses will hide us from the Harbinger's sensors. Make haste. I fear we have awoken something that has hungered for a very long time. As the transmission ended, Reed watched the massive construct continue its impossible emergence. The nearby stars weren't just dimming. They were being consumed, their light and energy drawn into the creature's metallic bulk. Helm, plot a course to the provided coordinates. Maximum speed. He turned to Naomi. Doctor, I need you to start analyzing everything we have on that tier in space. If that thing can punch holes between realities, maybe we can find a way to seal them. Already on it, Commander. She was busy at her console, dark hair falling forward as she worked. But sir, what exactly are we walking into? Reed watched as the escape pods began launching, carrying much of his crew to safety. The Harbinger now dominated the view, its presence an affront to natural law. Doctor, I think we're walking into a war, one that will decide the fate of not just humanity, but every living thing in this reality. The stellar horizon's engines hummed to life, and as they turned away from the horror emerging from between worlds, Reed couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. Whatever ancient civilization had created the Harbinger, they had either been incredibly foolish or incredibly desperate. Soon, he suspected, humanity would learn which. The sanctuary was nothing like Reed had imagined. Instead of a hidden base or fortified bunker, They emerged from their light jump into what appeared to be the heart of a dying star. The stellar horizon floated in a vast sphere of contained plasma, its shields automatically adjusting to the extreme conditions. "Remarkable," Dr. Santos whispered, her instruments struggling to make sense of their surroundings. "They've created a pocket universe inside a stellar core, the perfect hiding place." A shimmer of light announced Thalira's arrival on their bridge, accompanied by another figure. This one was clearly male, his crystalline skin refracting the ambient light into rainbow patterns. Unlike Thalira's fluid grace, he moved with rigid precision. "Commander Reed, this is Sentinel Voss," Thalira introduced. "He leads our military response to the Harbinger threat." Voss's 4 eyes studied Reed with what seemed like skepticism. "So these are the humans you believe can help us. Their ship's technology is primitive." "With respect, Sentinel," Reed stepped forward, "we've learned that technology isn't everything. Humanity has faced extinction-level threats before. We're still here." "Pretty words," Voss dismissed, "but the Harbinger has already consumed 3 stars since its emergence," Thalira cut in. "We don't have time for prejudice, Sentinel. Show them." Voss waved his hand, and suddenly the bridge was filled with a holographic display of the sector. Red markers indicated the Harbinger's path of destruction, while blue dots showed the positions of both human and concordat vessels. "The construct is following a pattern," Dr. Santos observed, quickly analyzing the data. "It's not random consumption, it's creating a geometric shape." She looked up, excitement in her eyes. "Commander, it's building something." "A gateway," Voss confirmed grudgingly. "One large enough to bring through something far worse than itself." Lieutenant Jackson, who had been quietly monitoring ship systems, spoke up. "Sir, these readings suggest it'll need at least 12 more stars to complete the pattern, at its current pace." "We have less than 48 hours, Thalira finished. "Which is why we need your human perspective. Our weapons are powerful but predictable. The Harbinger adapts to any pattern it recognizes." Reed studied the holographic display, years of tactical experience kicking in. "Then we give it something it can't predict. Dr. Santos, you said our technology was primitive compared to theirs." "Yes," but her eyes widened as she caught his meaning. "Of course, the Harbinger would be programmed to counter advanced energy weapons and quantum attacks, but older, simpler methods might slip right through its defenses," Reed nodded. "Sentinel, what would happen if we detonated a series of nuclear devices inside those stellar cores before the Harbinger could consume them?" Voss's crystalline features shifted in what might have been surprise. "The resulting cascade of radiation would be unpredictable, chaotic." A pause. "The Harbinger might not be able to process the energy efficiently." "It's not just about the weapons," Dr. Santos added, fingers flying over her console. "Look at these sensor logs. The Harbinger's outer shell, it's not just armor. It's a computational surface, constantly calculating and adapting. If we could introduce enough chaos into those calculations, we could crash its systems," Thalira finished, all 4 eyes gleaming. "Sentinel, we need to contact the fleet, have them prepare for a coordinated strike." But Voss held up a hand. "The plan has merit, but we lack the necessary materials. Our technology is too refined, too predictable." "Then it's a good thing we brought our own," Reed smiled grimly. "Lieutenant Jackson, send the signal to our defense platforms in the outer colonies. Authorization code Reed Alpha 7. We're going to need everything they've got." "Sir," Jackson worked his console, "the nearest platforms are reporting ready, but moving that many nuclear devices, the radiation signatures will be detected." "Good," Reed's smile turned predatory. "Let it see us coming. The more it focuses on adapting to our obvious threat, the less it'll notice what we're really doing." Thalira moved closer, her ethereal form seeming to shimmer with approval. "What are you planning, Commander?" "Dr. Santos discovered something in your crystal device, a quantum entanglement pattern. If we can replicate that on a larger scale, hide it within the nuclear detonations." He turned to Voss. "Your ships can generate reality tiers like the one the Harbinger came through, correct?" The Sentinel's rigid posture softened slightly. You propose to use our own gateway technology against it, create a tier that leads to nowhere, Reed finished. Or better yet, back to wherever it came from, but we'll need perfect timing and complete coordination between our forces. For the first time, Voss's expression showed something like respect. Perhaps Thalira was right about your species after all. Sentinel Voss of the Celestial Concordat stands ready to coordinate with Earth forces. As the others began working out the details, Reed stared at the holographic display of their enemy. The Harbinger continued its inexorable advance, consuming stars like a cosmic parasite. But now, finally, they had a plan. It wasn't perfect, and it relied on technology spanning the gap between primitive and transcendent, but that was exactly why it might work. Sometimes the best way to fight the future was with the past. The combined fleet of human and Concordat vessels hung in the void like a constellation of defiance. Nuclear warheads had been strategically placed within the nearby stars, each one modified with Dr. Santos's quantum entanglement patterns. The Harbinger approached, its massive form drinking in starlight as it moved. "All ships report ready," Lieutenant Jackson announced from his station. The bridge of the stellar horizon thrummed with tension. "The quantum signatures are stable," Dr. Santos added, her dark eyes fixed on her readings. "The entanglement field should hold when we initiate the tiers." Reed watched the tactical display, where Concordat ships had taken positions that would have seemed random to anyone who didn't know the plan. "Sentinel Voss, status of your reality tier generators." The crystalline alien's image flickered on the main screen. "Primed and synchronized with your detonation sequences, Commander, though I still question the wisdom of using such primitive weapons." "Sometimes the old ways are best," Reed smiled grimly. "Thalira, are you ready?" The ethereal alien materialized beside him, her 4 eyes focused on the approaching horror. "The calculations are precise. When the nuclear devices detonate, the resulting chaos in spacetime will force the Harbinger to devote tremendous resources to maintaining its structural integrity. That's when we strike with the tiers." "Sir," Jackson's voice carried an edge of urgency, "the Harbinger is accelerating. It's almost within range of the first star." Reed took a deep breath. Everything hinged on perfect timing. "All ships' battle stations, Dr. Santos, begin the countdown." The seconds ticked by with excruciating slowness. The Harbinger's impossible geometries twisted and writhed as it approached its next target, just as its outer tendrils began to reach for the star's corona. Now, the first nuclear detonation transformed the star into a miniature supernova. The Harbinger's surface rippled as it tried to process the sudden surge of chaotic energy. Before it could adapt, 2 more stars exploded, their quantum-entangled radiation creating a web of destructive interference. "It's working," Dr. Santos called out. "Its computational surface is overloading." "Sentinel Voss," Reed commanded, "initiate tier sequence." The Concordat ships began generating reality tiers around the Harbinger, each one precisely placed to create a geometric pattern of their own. The massive construct writhed, its form distorting as it tried to adapt to multiple threats simultaneously. But something was wrong. The Harbinger's surface began to pulse with a sickly red light. "Commander," Thalira's voice held a note of alarm, "it's not just adapting, it's evolving. The chaos is forcing it to create new computational patterns." The tactical display showed the Harbinger's outer shell transforming, sprouting new appendages that reached toward their ships. One Concordat vessel vanished in a flash of twisted space-time. "We can't let it complete its transformation," Reed decided. "Dr. Santos, all remaining warheads now, Sentinel Voss, pour everything you have into those tiers." The space around them erupted in a symphony of destruction. Nuclear fire mixed with quantum distortions, creating an apocalyptic light show. The Harbinger's new appendages began to crack and splinter under the assault. "Sir," Jackson shouted over the chaos, "structural integrity is failing. We need to pull back." "Not yet," Reed gripped his chair as the ship shuddered. "Thalira, how close are we?" "The tiers are almost aligned," she reported, her form flickering with the strain of maintaining her presence. But the gateway will only hold for seconds. The Harbinger let out a silent scream that rippled through reality itself. Its surface was coming apart, the impossible geometries breaking down under the combined assault of primitive fury and advanced science. All ships' final positions, Reed ordered. Concentrate fire on the designated coordinates. The surviving vessels, human and concordat alike, unleashed everything they had left. The Harbinger's form began to collapse in on itself, drawn into the network of reality tiers they had created. But as it died, it reached out one final time. A beam of twisted energy lanced out, striking the stellar horizon directly. Reed felt the deck lurch beneath him as systems began to fail. "Hull breach on decks 3 through 7, Jackson reported. "We're being pulled in." "No," Thalira moved with sudden determination, her form growing brighter. "You have given enough." She raised her hands, and Reed felt the ship stabilize as she somehow projected her own energy field around them. "Thalira, the strain." "Will be worth it," she smiled, all four eyes fixed on him. "Your species has proven itself beyond our highest hopes, Commander Reed. The future belongs to both our peoples now." With a final reality-shearing implosion, the Harbinger vanished into the tiers they had created, pulled back into the void between dimensions. The tiers sealed themselves with a flash of quantum energy, and silence fell across the battlefield. As emergency systems kicked in and damage reports began flowing, Reed looked at their allies, Thalira recovering from her effort. Voss's image showing something like respect. Dr. Santos already analyzing the data they had gathered. They had faced an impossible enemy and emerged victorious, not through overwhelming force, but through the combination of human ingenuity and alien wisdom. "Commander," Jackson broke the silence, "we're receiving messages from Earth. They want to know what happened out here." Reed watched as the stars began to shine normally again, no longer dimmed by the Harbinger's presence. Tell them that humanity has made some interesting new friends, and that the galaxy just got a lot more interesting. And a lot safer," Thalira added softly, "thanks to those who were willing to think differently." As the fleet began its journey home, Reed knew this was just the beginning. Somewhere out there, more Harbingers might exist. But now they had a blueprint for victory, the perfect fusion of the primitive and the advanced, of human chaos and alien order. The stars beckoned, brighter than ever, promising new adventures and challenges for this newfound alliance. And this time, they would face them together.